Welcome to the first episode of the Dark Souls Lore Q&A. My name is Alex, or Mont, and I'll take a moment to explain what this is all about, before we get into the main topics. Dark Souls lore, that's probably what brought you to this channel in the first place. It's a fun subject to cover, and I tend to stick to character-based videos, although now and then people will leave a comment like, why don't you do a video on Felkin the Hexer? How about a video on the Undead Merchant? And so forth. And most of the time these characters just don't have enough information surrounding them to create a whole video based on them. Unless it was a really short video, or if I combine two characters together, such as for example, Witch Beatrice and the Crystal Knight. And so, because of that, I thought this would be a good idea. A Q&A series of videos. Whether it's once a week or every 2 weeks, I'm not exactly sure on the schedule yet, but it's something we can do on a more regular basis. Not only will it let me cover subjects I might not otherwise, but it also gives me the opportunity to highlight some comments that probably get overlooked. Now and then people leave great theories in the comments, and I feel they are overlooked because I think not everyone reads through the comments, which, you can't blame people for that. I mean, it's a video. But either way, this is a good chance to discuss and mention them and put them in the spotlight, so to speak. But it's still an evolving concept, so if you have any suggestions for how to improve the format, let me know. I read every comment I get, and that's actually my next point. If you leave questions in the comments for episode 1, I will try and answer them in episode 2, and so forth. But Q&A isn't really the best word for all of this, it's just what I feel the simplest way to convey what the series is about. Now, you don't have to leave questions, you don't have to leave suggestions, you can certainly leave your own theories and speculation, and if there's any that I think are particularly interesting, I will read them out in the next episode, and so forth. So it's sort of a catch-all lore series to cover a wide variety of things. It will also let me cover certain things that get brought up time and time again, like Ornstein versus Ornstein, Nameless Usurper and Lycia, Artorias being left-handed or right-handed, and so forth. For now, I think we'll keep this mostly limited to Souls content. Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Demon Souls, and Bloodborne, although it's not technically Souls. Why couldn't they call it Blood Souls? Or something to make it simple, whatever. I think this will be a good way to cover more of the items that you guys want to talk about, that I wouldn't necessarily cover otherwise. And I hope you guys enjoy it and think it's a good idea. In this first episode, we'll be talking about Felkin the Hexer, exclusively. Please do leave your questions, suggestions, and whatever you want to see in the next episode. And if you leave a question and I don't get around to it in the next episode, don't hesitate to post it again. Then again, I will probably answer some comments in text form and then answer them again in the video, but yeah, if I don't answer your question in the video, you can go ahead and leave it again if you want. I'm not sure how this will go, but if there are a lot of questions, I obviously won't be able to cover them all in a single episode. Which is the good thing about making it weekly or bi-weekly and an ongoing series. Obviously, I'm still working on the lore videos as well. This is just something I can do in the meantime that doesn't take quite so much sort of process to get, complete. I can push these out faster, I suppose. And on a more regular basis. Something else this is good for, I can comment more frequently on things that are happening. Example, Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin Edition. You've heard of it, I've heard of it. And a more consistent series like this means I can mention things like that. What do you think about it? Is it just Bamco trying to wring a little more money out of us? Are you gonna pick it up? And what do you think about the PC player base potentially being split in half? The trailer gives us new glimpses of NPCs, or rather one NPC, who remarks on the fate of the kings from the Lost Crowns trilogy. Presumably he is the Scholar. I will probably pick it up on PlayStation 4 and maybe do a playthrough of it too. It'd be nice to see them put out a video comparing the graphics of the new version with the old version. Unfortunately, it looks like a very minor increase in graphics so far, and doesn't look like we're getting the old lighting engine, but, well, it's still a while till release, so let's see what we get. That said, let's talk about Felkin the Hexer. I mentioned him in my lore video on Navlan, but only in passing, so let's go into a little more detail. Who is Felkin? Navlan refers to him as Felkin the Hexer, but most official sources refer to him as Felkin the Outcast. Both are true, however. He is both a Hexer and an Outcast, because the two go very much in hand, wouldn't you say? The first thing I'd like to point out is that Felkin shares the same voice actor as Laurentius, one of the pyromancers from the first Dark Souls. Not only do they share a voice actor, but they even resemble each other to a certain extent, and both are gifted magic users. Felkin even uses some unique form of fire magic that he appears to cast with a staff, which almost implies that it's fire sorcery that he's using, which would seem incredibly unlikely, as nobody in Dark Souls or Dark Souls 2 has been able to use fire sorcery. As far as I can remember, maybe the Bed of Chaos is using fire sorcery, but I don't think it is. It's more like that Chaos Tempest spell or whatever. When questioned, Felkin will remark that he went to a great school, presumably a magic institute, but neither sorcery nor pyromancy held much interest for him, and that he learned nothing. But he is a classic case of the Hexer. The dark sorcery is alluring. It is almost an addiction, a craving. Felkin claims that he felt affinity and warmth from the dark, something universal and even nostalgic. I don't think that's too hard to explain. Humans, or pygmies, in the Dark Souls world are potentially all spawned or descendants of the furtive pygmy, their progenitor, who claimed the Dark Soul. Whether or not it was Manus isn't the issue here, but dark and humans go hand in hand. The dark is always with you, says Felkin, and his words are true. That would also explain the nostalgia he feels. Humanity and dark in general are often described as being soft and warm, which is odd, as I suppose we are inclined to think of dark as cold and clammy, or at least that's how I think of the dark. So to hear it described as warm and soft, well, that is a little odd to me. Anyway, why is Felkin in Drangleic? Simple. This land lies closest to the Dark. That is why he came. What is the Dark? Hard to say. Does he mean the Dark Soul? Or is he talking about Nishandra, a fragment of Manus? Or does he perhaps mean something more nebulous, a concept of dark as opposed to anything tangible? Maybe, but it's also interesting to note that Felkin is not, or at least does not believe himself to be, undead. He claims to be neither undead nor hollow, which makes him stand out to a certain degree, as many other characters we meet are undead, and on the path to hollowing. Although Benhart seems to be another exception, potentially, although he never really mentions it. There's also a curious relationship between Felkin and Navlan. Felkin wields the Sunset Staff, a powerful hexing staff that was created in Aldia, and in the art book it appears that the Chaos Rapier and Chaos Shield were associated with Felkin as well. But the description of both items makes no mention of Felkin. They talk about Navlan, but do not specifically say they belong to him. And then there's the fact that Navlan wants us to kill Felkin and bring him the Sunset Staff. Could it be that Felkin visited Aldia's keep and took the Sunset Staff for his own? Perhaps at some point Navlan and Felkin were intended to play different roles, but Navlan created hexes, and so too has Felkin, which is why I believe Navlan wants Felkin dead. He's a fellow hexer and creator, which does not sit well with Navlan, I believe. And if you want to hear more on that stuff, well, I have a video exclusively about Navlan, which you can check out somewhere on my channel. Felkin created the Dark Weapon Hex, using Magic Weapon as a base. But why create a spell such as that, if he has no weapon to enchant? Of course, perhaps he just created it because he could. Some creations are born of necessity, whilst others are born of curiosity. What do you think of Felkin and his links to Laurentius and Navland. Perhaps he's a descendant of our pyromancer trainer, the Pyro Bro. Let me know what you think in the comments, and of course, if you have any questions or theories, post them too. I'll comb through the comments and pick some to cover for the next episode. Any feedback on the format of this series and how to improve it is likewise very welcome. Until then, take care, and I will see you later.